What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction video, and in this one we have 6 reasons why I like Polish people more than Americans. What you got against us? What do we do? We're gonna find out. Before we dive in, if you happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested, and let's find out why the Polish are cooler than Americans.
Today I'm going to give you guys 6 reasons why I like Polish people more than Americans. To my Polish viewers, get excited. And to my American viewers, buckle up. Number 1, hospitality and friendliness. Polish people are known for their hospitality and warm-hearted culture. They often go out of their way to make guests feel welcome. When a Polish person welcomes you to his or her home or life, the relationship is likely to be genuine and lasting. Poles tend to be very straightforward and honest in their relationships. And while they may not be overly friendly with strangers, their warmth is real and meaningful when it does emerge. When Polish people like you, they will treat you with respect and compliments. But when they don't like you, they will brush you off and tell you to go away. And they're very direct about it with zero shame. When I first came to Poland 3 years ago, I did not know my ways around the country very well. And I had lots of strangers come up to me and help me. For example, when I went to the supermarket for the first time, I didn't know you needed a coin to grab a cart. I literally just asked a random person behind me for a coin. And then he smiled and he was more than willing to give me the coin for the cart. Another instance is when I went to the local butcher for some steaks. And I asked him where I could buy some kosher salt because I couldn't find anywhere nearby. And the guy literally went to the back and grabbed a quality box of kosher salt and handed it to me and told me it was on the house. You know, just little kind gestures like this made me feel really welcome and gave me a great first impression of Polish people. This really is a stark contrast with my experiences with Americans. American friendliness is often characterized by casual, open demeanor that can feel warm and inviting on the surface, but it's not so. We tend to engage in small talk easily and show interest in others through upbeat, positive conversation. However, a lot of this friendliness and small talk can be perceived as superficial or insincere, especially in professional and social settings. It's more of a cultural norm and expectation rather than a genuine desire to get to know the other person. Usually you can't tell Americans like you or not because they tend to avoid direct confrontation and act passive aggressively, meaning even if they don't like you, they will act friendly and smile. But when you're not around, they'll be talking trash behind your back. Also, oftentimes instead of confronting you about a problem, they will rather either make excuses to ignore you or avoid communication altogether. Or worse, they would make sarcastic comments or give subtle hints to express their discontent without open, direct confrontation. I am a fairly direct person, and this is exactly why I prefer Polish people over Americans on this matter. I like the bluntness and the honesty of Polish people. If somebody likes me, great. If somebody doesn't like me, that's okay. Tell it to my face and we'll never speak again. It just makes me trust them more over Americans, who I feel sometimes are just simply too superficial. And friendships often with other Americans are simply shallow, unless you grew up with them. Moving on to number 2.
I can understand where he's coming from, so I'm not even mad about the things that he said. I feel like here in America, yes, completely right. You cannot like somebody, but when you see them, like, you're still polite and smiling, like there's nothing wrong. Yet there's something that bothers you about that person. You just don't like them. And then, like, when you see it in shows and movies, like when people are straight up about, like, I just don't like you. Like, they're looked at as, like, very mean, or they're looked at as a mean girl or a mean dude. And it's like that kind of bluntness here, I guess, is looked upon as rude and very mean. Whereas in Poland, it's just looked at and it's like you being honest. Like, hey, go away. I don't like you. And it's not that being mean. It's just being direct. And then relationships, on the surface, I feel like we can definitely talk to strangers and have those small talks. But it is more superficial, or I like to say agenda driven, as you might want something, and then so that's why you're going up to that person, making small talk. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of Americans that are just friendly, that are warm, that never meet a stranger, that are very, very warm and nice. but also a lot of the time it can be agenda driven. It can be superficial. And friendships, I guess when he kind of talked about the Polish, it reminds me a lot of videos I've reacted to about Germany, whereas they talk about the Germans being direct. And when they're actually friends with you, like you really like, it's a strong friendship. It's a strong bond. It's not anything superficial. It's not superficial. It's not shallow. Like you make a friend, you got a friend for life. So I can understand the differences between the Polish and the Americans and why he likes that more direct approach because he's more of a direct person who appreciates like, don't talk about me behind my back, don't be fake, be honest and tell me straight to my face. So I completely understand that. Not mad about that one. Let's hear the next reason.
Humbleness. Polish people are known for their humility and modesty, traits deeply rooted in their history and culture. Humbleness in Poland often manifests as quiet strength, where achievements are downplayed and individuals avoiding boasting themselves or drawing attention. They always seem to approach interactions with respect, modesty, and consideration. For example, Poland is probably the safest country in Europe, and that is a fact. You can look up the crime statistics. But whenever I talk to a Polish person about how safe the country it is, they will always downplay it. They will usually say something like, oh, it's not very safe, there are too many drunk people, people try to steal things from you. To me, that just sounds cute, because in my mind, I have a completely different standard for what is considered safe and not safe. Coming from America, I'm so used to gang violence, mass shooting, brutal murders, and casual robberies. So upon hearing this from Polish people, it just sounds so cute. Things like safety, cleanliness, and education, Poland always rank at the top, in Europe at least. But you will never hear normal Polish people bragging about these things because it's quiet strength. They know this already, and they show it with actions and numbers instead of loud words. Also, Polish women are very beautiful, but you'll never hear from the women themselves. Instead, you'll hear this from travelers, expats, and people from other countries. And when you interact with Polish women, they're almost always polite, friendly, and non-entitled, even though some of them can be intimidatingly beautiful. Now, this is totally different in America. Americans are loud and sometimes can be perceived as self-promotional and arrogant, especially when success and personal achievements are celebrated, because America is all about freedom, individualism, and personal success. Americans usually think America is the best country in the world. When they say they're well-traveled, it usually means around the States, maybe Canada, Mexico, and maybe a few countries in Western Europe. And that's about it. They tend to overstate their personal values and achievements rather than downplaying them. Because again, it stems from the individualism and self-promotional culture. Even if they don't know something, they will act like they know a lot about it in order to maintain this image of superiority, especially when interacting with non-Americans. It's really about this drive to seek validation from others, especially in public, in order to receive more attention and recognition. And that's why you see a lot of Americans doing totally random, weird acts in totally random places just for social media and views. American women are especially guilty of this. Even though 2/3 of the American women are overweight and 1/3 are obese, they will always think and tell other people that they're healthy and beautiful. There's a popular term in California to describe women who are like this. They call it the 49ers, meaning they're fours, but they think they're nines and they deserve the world. The feminist culture.
That's my first time hearing that, and I've got to start using that for future. 49ers. Okay. Shout out California. I rock with that. I rock with that.
Has really driven American women to way overvalue themselves and become very, very entitled. And that's why dating in the US is terrible for men. And as a result, a lot of men are going overseas to date and to settle down, like me. Personally, I come from an Asian background, so I do prefer to be more humble, quiet, and show who I am through actions. And that's part of the reason why I moved to Poland, because I find Polish people are a lot similar to me in that regard. And Polish women are a lot more compatible with my values and goals than American women. Number 3 is work-life.
I feel like I really like what he said in that one. And I feel like, again, he's spot on the money explaining the difference with America. I've never been to Poland or in Poland, so I have to take his word on how the Polish are. And I absolutely love the humbleness. even when they get the chance to brag, they're not bragging right. Even, hey, your country's one of the safest. Your country is ranks near the top in education. Hey, your country ranks near the top in cleanliness. But when you ask a Polish person, they're like, we could still do this better. This could be done. It's a little bit too much drunks. They never really brag about like their accomplishments. And I love that the women, like, although they're, like he said, they're very beautiful, they're never gonna be the ones to state that themselves, right? I guess it's kind of a quiet strength. Is that what he said? When it kind of a quiet confidence, when you know this about yourself, and you probably don't even think this about yourself because you're so humble to the point where, right? I guess you don't think like I'm the ish or my ish don't stink, or you know what I'm saying. I know that I'm beautiful. And they're just very nice and genuine. We're here in America. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I do love America in terms of like that kind of overconfidence. Like, there's something about that does like pull me into like, I see people with like overconfidence, and that kind of pulls me in. Like, I want to be that confident. Like, I want to have so much self belief in myself that I can feel the same way about myself that they do. I want so that does pull me as well. I'm not upset about that. That term 49ers, that was a funny one, but that is an absolute fact, bro. Feminism has gotten to a point where it's like insanity. I think it just comes in terms of like, it seems like it was supposed to be about being equal, but it comes to a turn where it seems like they kind of want to rule everything. I guess they still want men to be like traditional and everything, but they want to be who they want to be. And so I understand what he's saying when he says like it's kind of hard to date for men because of this wave. But yeah, I guess shoot, I really like that comparison between the two. I really love that about Poland, the humbleness, but I do also enjoy like the overconfidence in America now, like a blind overconfidence and saying like, "Oh, America's the greatest country in the world," and you ain't never been nowhere else. How can you just say that? You can't really. I'm not mad at being proud of your country. Heck, I love America, but I also understand we got a lot of problems. We got a lot of issues in this country that need to be solved, and there's a lot of countries doing a lot better in certain areas. And so I'm not just out here, we're the greatest. No, let me travel to other countries. Let me learn about everywhere else before you can make that statement. So completely understand where he's coming from. We're going to jump into 3 before I keep ranting.
Balance. Polish people value a balanced approach to work and personal life. While Poland is very known for its hard-working culture, especially in industries like IT, manufacturing, and education, there's a growing emphasis on maintaining a healthy work-life balance. Standard work hours in Poland are typically from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, similar to the US. But the key difference here is that many companies in Poland, they offer flexible working hours or the options to work remotely. Another major difference is the vacation policy. Polish workers are entitled to almost a month of paid leave per year. Public holidays, of which there are around 13 each year, also provide additional time off for relaxation. This emphasis on vacation ensures that the Polish workers have regular opportunities to disconnect from work and to recover. Lastly, Polish people tend to have this collective mindset in the workplace, where collaboration and support among colleagues are highly valued. This can reduce the stress and competition that often accompany work environments in more individualistic cultures such as the US. There's a general understanding that work is important, but it's not the sole focus of life. In contrast, the work-life balance in the US tend to be a lot more challenging, particularly due to high-pressure, productivity-driven culture that prevails in many of the industries in the US. Americans are often encouraged to prioritize work over personal life. Long hours, high competition, and and fewer vacation days are the common aspects of the American work environment. Many people in the US tie their entire identity and self-worth to their career. As a result, many Americans tend to work much longer hours, often sacrificing family time and personal time in the process. Even though the working hours are similar between Poles and Americans, it's common for American employees to work beyond the standard 40-hour week, especially in sectors like finance, law, medicine, and tech. It's really that hustle culture that encourages people to go above and beyond, often resulting in burnout. And this is exactly why so many Americans are depressed and stressed out all the time. On top of that, American workers receive a lot less paid vacation leave than their Polish counterparts.
Definitely.
Most employees in the US, they are entitled to maybe 10 days or 2 weeks of paid vacation per year. Also, of course, much fewer public holidays than in Poland. A lot of American workers are expected to work during holidays, particularly in industries like retail, healthcare. Before I started my own business, I worked in corporate for 2 years, and I felt like a drone for the reasons I listed above. Although I don't have any working experience here in Poland, since I work for myself now, being in an environment where the people are generally happier, with less stress and mental problems, also makes me happier and gives me more positive energy. If you guys find this video interesting and insightful, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. The next 3 reasons might
I feel like, yes, I absolutely love a work-life balance. But for this, I feel like this is more of a personal thing. Although, like, in terms of some people do just enjoy working a lot more. Don't ask me why. Some people just enjoy, I guess, that productivity culture, that grind culture, and they just fully embrace it. And that's really cool for them. I'm more on his side in terms of I like a balance. I don't want to work a lot, but at the end of the day, I feel like I end up having to work a lot to the point where, like, in my brain, it's hard for me to, like, be still and, like, chill and relax because constantly, I guess, his American mindset, you're stressed about making money, making more money, making enough money, getting ahead, bills. It's just so much running through your head where sometimes you forget to, like, relax and recharge, and like you said, it leads to burnout, and it's frustrating. Sometimes even on YouTube, I do YouTube full time now, and it's like some days I work 6 days in a row, and I work like 8 to 9 hours each day, and like that one day off allows me to, like, kind of just recharge and refresh my brain, and like it gives me energy back in order to come back those next 6 days and, like, grind them out. But there's so much people who have to work so much more than that, who work like 80 hours a week, and it's like mind blowing and it's numbing. And you got like teachers who are working, they can do their work, but now they got to work off the clock when it comes to grading and lesson plans and all of this. And so, and they're not even getting paid for that. And so work-life balance 100% is harder here in America, and it is more competitive and more stressful here. So I understand the comparisons that he's making and the difference. And it seems like, from what he said in Poland, life is, I guess, less stressful, where it's less competitive and it's more cooperative at work, right? You want to do your best, but you also want to help the next person. You got everybody cooperating in the workplace. It helps everybody get in ahead. Whereas in America, it's like you want to kind of be better than the next person, so you're the one that gets that promotion. So, and it's, don't get me wrong, a lot of Americans are very helpful in the workplace and everything and cooperative. But just the culture in America is more individualism, more like personally wanting to reach the top more than like helping a group of people reach the top with you. But you do sacrifice a lot of personal time with family, with friends and everything in order to try to get ahead at work. He's right about that. He's been spot on in most of this, but we're going to let him continue.
Get a little bit controversial. Number 4 is education. Polish people, especially the younger generation, are well educated and have a strong emphasis on academic achievements. Polish people tend to be more globally aware, especially when it comes to history, geography, languages, and international
I
affairs.
feel that.
The majority of the Polish people speak at least one foreign language, with
That's
English
incredible.
being the most common, followed by German, French, and increasingly Spanish. Asian languages, Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, are also growing in popularity among the younger generation, especially women, which I find a little bit surprising. Polish people are also very aware of geography. They can definitely point out where every single European country is on the continent, as well as the major countries in the rest of the world. When you talk to Polish people about international affairs, they usually remain neutral. And I find it very shocking how much Polish people know about the affairs in the US and in Asia. They would almost never speak poorly of certain countries and would always think from those countries' perspective. International relations, good or bad, they will usually frame it as a country's struggle for its own survival and prosperity. There are no heroes and villains. But Americans are a lot different in this regard. Education in the US is highly privatized and national-centric, meaning there's a high emphasis on education about its own country and not enough about the rest of the world. Americans are also less focused on academic achievements and strive more for personal development outside of academics, which I do think is a plus. Finally, Americans tend to be a lot less globally aware and view the world from a purely Western perspective. This is mainly due to history and geography. Since the US has been so dominant as a country for the last 100 years, culturally, militarily, and economically, and its geography very isolated, it's understandable why Americans are educated in this way. Even though Americans learn Spanish at a very young age, most of them do not actively practice. Besides a tiny bit of Spanish, the vast majority of Americans do not speak any other foreign languages. And Americans are notoriously famous for not knowing geography.
I'll give you $1 if you can name any continent.
Come on. North America, South America, Europe, Asia,
I'm pretty sure you've
Africa,
seen videos on either Instagram
Australia,
or TikTok where the street interviewers talk to Americans and they have very little clue about where the countries are in the world or simply just naming major countries in certain continents. The same applies to history. Americans know very little about history of other continents or countries simply because they never needed to. I come from an international background and I also traveled all over the world, but I am still very American. I believe that being book smart is important, but being street smart is even more important. However, as the world evolves more and more, I think it's critical to develop a more worldly perspective. And that's why I prefer living in Poland and talk to Polish people, because it really broadens my perspective on international matters. Having a national-centric education is where the US is failing. When a nation is powerful and its people uneducated about the rest of the world, it leads to bad international relations, or worse, war. Number 5, family.
Yes. Growing up in American schools, geography, history, it was mostly taught towards America. We could be taught like a map of the world. Just you gotta name a continents though. You don't have to name like countries outside of America. You just got to figure out the 7 continents. I think is the furthest it'll go in global geography. Just for me personally, coming up in school, and then history, we never learned about history outside of the U.S. It was U.S. history, and that's it. Like I never learned about history in Asia or history in Europe or history in any other continents. Just literally even other countries, not just continent but any other countries. Like I didn't learn about Canada history or Mexico history. I know they're in the same continent and with the US. I really just learned about American history growing up. So he's right in that regard, where that's a lot of the reason when you see Americans in these videos and they don't know geography or they don't know history is because we're just not taught about that growing up. Now there's some that are just inexcusable, and some of it's just inexcusable. But a lot of this we're just not taught, and I felt like he's got a more worldly perspective from being able to travel and such. I feel like I've gained some just being able to react to so many different countries outside of America, and hearing people that have traveled to these countries, hearing their experiences and everything. I've learned a lot through that, whereas I didn't know any of that before I started reacting. So it's really cool to learn about different countries, but we're not taught that here in the U.S. So I love that one.
Family. Polish people see family as the cornerstone of society and personal life. Family bonds in Poland are generally stronger and are more central to everyday life compared to many other cultures, including the US. In Poland, multi-generational households are more common, and family members often maintain a very strong bond well into adulthood. It's quite common for Polish families to live close to or to live with extended family members, including grandparents, aunt, uncles, and cousins. Grandparents in particular play a very important role in raising grandkids and providing support for the younger generation. There's a strong cultural emphasis on respecting the elders in Polish families. Grandparents and older family members are highly respected. Family gatherings are a key part of Polish culture, especially around holidays and important life events. Celebrations such as Christmas, Easter, and name day are deeply family-oriented, often involve large gatherings of multiple generations. During these occasions, spending time with family is prioritized over work. And this is also why Polish women are so good for long-term relationships. The majority of Polish women grew up in a full nuclear family where the mother and the father are still together. In the US, the concept of family can be more individualistic and focused on the nuclear family only and not the entire family network. While Americans certainly value family, the culture tends to emphasize on personal reliance and success. This can result in a more dispersed family structure where family members live very far from each other and not relying on each other for daily support and communication. Most Americans certainly do not live with or live even close to their extended family. Even in the immediate family, once the children turn 18, they're expected to move out and become independent, which can lead to long time separation from the parents and emotional distancing. Since American culture places such a high value on individualism, people tend to prioritize career goals and education over family ties. Lastly, this is very important. A significant number of children in America are growing up without a complete nuclear family, with single mother households being the most common, especially among certain minority groups. And it's getting worse. This is a huge problem I don't think many Americans understand. Unstable and incomplete families lead to troubled kids. The males are more likely to become more violent and commit crimes, and females are more likely to be more promiscuous and reliant on the government. It only leads to more domestic problems and more chaos. Even though Poland is an European country, I find a lot of its values similar to my Asian background. I grew up in America, but I was very fortunate to be raised by both parents, mom and dad. I learned that individualism and personal achievement is great, but family is even greater. And that's why I prefer living and dating in Poland, because the women here are raised right with strong family values. And I want to have my own family someday. And I wish my kids are raised in this same strong family environment. Lastly, number 6.
I feel like there are pros. I feel like American family values, but Polish family values. That's incredible to, I guess, stay that close with your family, and more common for multi-generational households. Whereas I couldn't imagine that, but I've grown up here my whole life, and I guess that kind of emphasis wasn't placed in my upbringing. And so I think that's really cool. And then I completely agree with his statement on the nuclear family. That's really truly, if you ask me, I rock for my nuclear family, but outside of my immediate family, I don't really know much about what anybody's doing or anything outside of that immediate family. So I 100% agree. The emphasis on family, I guess, isn't as strong here, maybe. And I feel like you are raised here to when you turn 18, like it's time to move out. It's time to be, especially for men, it's time to be your own person. It's time to figure out your own way. And yeah, but at the same time, like there's something to that I kind of like. But I guess that's probably because I've grown up here, like that individualism that it's time for me to step out and like forge my own path. And it's like, yes, I grew up in a 2-parent household, and yes, if I were to need my parents, like if I were to need anything, I can call them up and say, hey, like, can you help me out or anything? But I don't like relying on, I guess, anybody else, and that includes family. I like to be able to do things myself, and communication wise, I don't talk to my family every single day. I did move like states away from them, even though like I love them to death, and if they need me, I'm there. But the relationship isn't there where we like talk every single day, or like I'm no, like every other week I may be like text, how you doing, everything okay, everybody good. And so, yeah, that's just the way I grew up. But I understand that emphasis on family that he's talking about, and where you communicate every day, where you can rely on each other daily, where you don't move away from each other, like you stay close with each other. And I think there's a beauty in that, because at the end of the day, I believe that family bond is the strongest, truly. So there is a beauty in that. But I do also enjoy like an individualism aspect of it's kind of, hey, go forward your own path. Like, I don't know, there's something about that as well that pulls me. Let me know what you guys think about that one.
This is a big one. Patriotism and immigration.
Oh.
Polish patriotism is deeply rooted in the country's long turbulent history, marked by occupations, partitions, and struggles for independence. As a result, many Poles have a strong sense of national identity. Polish patriotism tend to focus more on preserving cultural traditions, honoring historical events, and maintaining sovereignty. Polish people take great pride in their language, traditions, and their religious customs. There's a strong desire among the Polish people to protect the Polish/European way of life, particularly against external influences that might dilute national values or culture. Again, Polish patriotism is about unity and sovereignty. And that's why national holidays like Independence Day and Constitution Day is widely celebrated in Poland. Bottom line, do not mess with Polish people. They absolutely hate it when foreigners come to the country and tell them how to live their lives. To the Polish people, when you come to Poland, you respect the people, you respect the culture, and you respect the laws. You as a foreigner are supposed to assimilate into Polish society and not segregate within Polish society. And that's why Polish people strongly oppose illegal immigration and cultural diversity, because in their minds, Poland is for Poles and for people who want to integrate into the Polish society. America, on the other hand, has been heading in the total opposite direction, especially in the past 2 decades. Patriotism is often looked down upon, and nationalism is taboo. National identity is weaker and weaker. People no longer feel proud to be Americans anymore, and unity is at an all-time low. America nowadays is about promoting and accepting diversity and other cultures instead of preserving its own. Things like freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, are facing increasing censorship and restrictions. National holidays are more about relaxing and partying instead of celebrating and commemorating a significant historical event. On July 4th weekend, for example, people are more interested in barbecuing and drinking beer rather than celebrating the birth of a nation and remembering the works of our founding fathers. It's simply just too casual and non-unifying. Now, I don't want to get into politics too much, but America has been flooded with illegal immigration for the past 2 decades. And oftentimes, these illegal immigrants have more rights and protection than American citizens themselves. There's a common saying that America is a big melting pot. In my opinion, I do think it is a big pot, but I don't think all these mixtures are melting as expected. I am a legal immigrant to both the US and now Poland, and I love both countries. But I do lean way more towards the Polish people's view on patriotism and immigration. I think it's absolutely vital for a nation to be united and to be active in preserving its own language, its own culture, and history. Otherwise, you won't have a nation anymore. And I'm afraid that's slowly happening to America. Immigration is good to a certain extent to introduce new ideas and development into the country. And it should always be legal. However, it should never dilute the nation's identity and undermine its security, culture, language, and ways of life. All right, guys, now you have an idea of why I love Polish people. Tell me, what do you think? Is there anything else I must know about Polish people? The good and the bad. Also, what do you guys think about Americans? Leave all the comments down below. This is Angster, and I'll see you on the next one.
I think I found this last point like interesting in terms of like when I watch videos of other people, I guess in Europe, like talk about American patriotism and nationalism, they like seem like annoyed by it. They're like, Americans like are too patriotic, like to the point where you're flying your flags everywhere and you think you're blindly saying like your country's the greatest country and all that, and you blindly loving your country even though y'all have all these problems. So his point was different, but I do agree. Here, there's a lot of division here, and there's not a lot of like, I guess, assimilating to U.S. cultures, to the U.S. culture, and with certain rights being more stood against. But at the same time, I feel like there are certain things that I think should be stood against. There are certain things I think should be called out and that should not be blindly accepted here. And so, from a certain standpoint, I'm like, these things do need to change here. There does need to be like issues fixed here because there are a lot of people that are suffering here from certain aspects that America holds, or certain laws that America has, and there does need to be change. But I can also understand from his perspective in saying like you do have to preserve your culture. You do have to, right? Where in Poland, it's like people are expected to come there and assimilate to Polish culture, and they're not big on illegal immigration. They're not big on people segregating themselves from the culture. If you're going to come here, you should assimilate. Where America, where we celebrate individualism, it's like, now if you come like be yourself, be individualistic, like have your culture and everything. But I can understand where that causes problems too. I don't have a problem with either way. To me, I feel like since I did grow up in a country that focused on individualism, I don't really stress about how others feel. Like if somebody else isn't happy with how they're doing in the country, that doesn't really bother me. I got that. They're saying, my favorite rapper says that what you eat don't make me crap, and you know what I'm saying. So what you do doesn't affect me and how I live. And I guess that's that individualistic attitude about America. But I do think America is kind of in a little bit of turmoil in terms of division, in terms of politics, in terms of so much going at each other, so much sides going back and forth. And I guess we'll kind of see how that shakes out over time. But I love that Poland, you preserve that culture, you stick together, and those holidays, you celebrate what that holiday's about. I agree with that point here in the U.S. It's kind of, we look to like party, have a good time. But there are a lot of times as well where you do like understand the holiday, but you do celebrate at the same time. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section about this one. This is a very interesting video. I like his points a lot, and I believe he was very educated about points in both countries, so I really appreciated that. That's all we have. If you guys enjoyed, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, check out the next one. See you guys next time.